and welcome to this Intel FutureGen session. I am Sam Hibbert, Head of Partnerships at NSE, National Student Esports, and today I'm joined by Kieran Holmes-Darby, who is co-founder and Chief Gaming Officer from Excel. Just a kind of brief introduction on the Intel FutureGen program. So Intel FutureGen program is designed to kind of give an overview of esports to students and how they can get involved from a career point of view. And this is part of a series of broadcasts that we do that's part of that content. So I'll let kind of Kieran jump in and do an introduction to who he is and who Excel are for those who don't know.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. So yeah, my name is Kieran, one of the co-founders of Excel, co-founded the business 6 years ago. We're a competitive gaming culture brand, as we call ourselves, here in the UK. But we have obviously global aspirations and professional esports teams that compete internationally. So we're most well known at the moment for our team that competes in the League of Legends European Championship. But we also have competitive teams in Fortnite and Valorant.
Awesome. So, and this is probably one for me actually to find out as well, but what is a Chief Gaming Officer at Excel?
Yeah, it's a good question. It is a real title, a Chief Gaming Officer, and essentially it's very similar to an esports director, as you see at some organizations, or even a general manager at some organizations. Essentially, my role is everything esports, and to ensure that we are in the most relevant esports titles, both from a competition standpoint, but also make sure we're creating content in the most relevant game titles. But then, yeah, my day-to-day focus is make sure our competitive teams have the support necessary to go and win games of their respective game titles. So that's really my day-to-day on the competitive side. Yeah.
So no pressure for you then in your day-to-day role.
Yeah, I mean, if any team loses, it's basically all my fault. So yeah, no pressure.
So obviously, the Intel FutureGen program is designed for students who are at university. Excel actually started its roots at university. You went to Lancaster, and there's a kind of famous story that involves a Weatherspoons. But again, for those who don't know, can you kind of give an overview of where Excel started and what that process looked like, and really how important university was for you in that?
Yeah, for sure. So the infamous Weatherspoon story is that it was my first year at university. It was my birthday weekend. My brother came up to visit me, and obviously see the local nightlife, which is a Weatherspoons apparently. So we were sitting there talking over a few drinks and really chatting about the gaming industry. We both massive gamers. Like anything I can be competitive at, I will be competitive at, and gaming was one of those things for me. Played Call of Duty, Gears of War, Halo competitively growing up, and was really into competitive gaming, and looked into the esports industry and saw that really in the UK there wasn't a whole lot going on 6 years ago, whereas in Southeast Asia, Korea, in North America, it was pretty professionalized, and there was quite a bit going on back then. Watching the MLG Halo tournaments and things like this, it was getting quite a big deal even back then, but not really a lot going on in the UK. So we really felt like there was a gap in the market for a team to come and do things properly and be that go-to UK brand. So that's what we really set out to do. We're big fans of what some of the other North American organizations, such as Optic Gaming or Team Envy, had already created by that point. And we said, well, why can't we do that in the UK? So that was kind of the idea, and it was born out of that, and very much a hobby bedroom organization to start with, making Twitter profiles, creating our own branding and all of this sort of stuff. The barriers to entry were a lot lower back then, to be fair, than they are now, and you could start up an esports organization with very, very little investment. It was ran operationally initially on a financial budget that consisted of savings from my brother and from me. I was a student, so I had no money. It was actually a grant that I got from Lancaster University. So I had to go through there. They had actually a really good entrepreneurs program, and I kind of pitched to a board that had a had money available to grant students to go and do these kind of entrepreneurial ventures. Got a couple of grand from them basically after pitching the idea, and that really helped us really get things off the ground, start getting our name out there in different events, and yeah, that was really the kind of kickstart that we needed. In terms of how I kind of explained the business to the university, which is I'm sure people find it difficult to explain their passion for esports. Even me, if I'm in the back of a taxi right now trying to explain what I do to the taxi driver, can be quite difficult at times. And it was even more difficult back then, 6 years ago. So it was really just trying to take out the relatable pieces that potentially the university could understand, which were things like, we need budget to get to events, to market what we're doing. That kind of made sense to them. We need budget to, build a website, even to put some social spend behind our social media. These sorts of things that every business can relate to. We needed the funding for that. So that was really how we sold it into them, was not to try and focus too much on the esports side, which they probably were struggling to understand.
Yeah, and it's quite interesting because esports has grown massively in the last few years, and actually universities now are starting to recognize esports, and it's probably less of a kind of a chore to explain what esports is now, but there's still going to be some of those traditional universities that do need guiding along the way. In terms of when you approached them for this program and you had to create like a business plan that you hadn't done before, what was that process like in terms of like, okay, I know there's this program available, I know there's this grant money available, I know what I need to do to do it, but what did actually that entail? What did that business plan look like initially?
Yeah, I think one of the key things I learned early on, and I've kind of kept with me the whole time whilst kind of growing the business, is the whole KISS analogy: keep it simple, stupid. I think that is some of the best advice I've ever been given, and I think sometimes you can really try to overcomplicate a situation because you think that it needs, you need to really invest your time and effort into it. And of course, yes, you need to invest your time and effort into a pitch and into a business plan. But if you're pitching to people who really don't have a clue about the ins and outs of your business, you've got to keep it really simple, and you've got to just keep the kind of elements that make sense to the average person, not an esports fanatic like myself. Like just the average person, what would they understand? So that's been, even pitching for our investment into the LEC, which was a lot more sizable than my university grant back in the day. Even that, we had the same principles there. Keep it simple, keep it relatable. And I think that was the case with the business plan. I think we actually decided, let's not write pages and pages of a business plan. Let's do a one pager. That is because when you force yourself to do a one pager, it forces you to really focus on what's important and get rid of the fluff. And I'm very good at adding fluff, which I've learned throughout my career. I need to not do that. I need to keep it really simple. So that was really what we did, is just keep a one pager really simple. This is the idea. This is where the money's going to be spent. What do you think?
Awesome. Yeah, I mean that's great advice. I think, especially from the amount of presentations that I've seen and proposals and worked on is often the quality of the content is a lot more important than the quantity. And yeah, just miss out the fluff. So that's great advice. And
yeah, I mean, it's a little bit different when we applied for when there are certain processes where like there is necessary due diligence and you will have to provide kind of a backlog of report, but actually what you present up front needs to be super simple, right? So for instance, our LEC application was 170 pages, but we're not going to present 170 pages to Riot when we're trying to get into the league. It's it's keep it really simple and keep it top line.
There you go. So I referenced before that university sports has come a long way in the last few years, but it's I guess totally different from when you're at university. Not trying to make you feel old, Kieran.
I'm not old, but it was 6 years ago now.
Yeah. So some universities are investing in infrastructure. So we have the likes of Warwick University, who are actually, putting £250,000 into developing esports facilities, so societies and teams can play. We have universities who are looking at esport degrees. We have universities who are offering esport modules attached to courses, and then actually we just have them recognizing esport teams at university now as competitive teams, and some of them are giving them the same access that sport teams have. So budgets for travel, budgets for jerseys, and things like that. So how important do you think that kind of grassroots infrastructure is in place and that the universities are supporting them at those levels?
It's just absolutely amazing, to be honest. I mean, there was none of that 6 years ago. I wasn't even involved in my university's esports society. I didn't even know it existed throughout my time at university. Now I go back, and the Luges, as they're called, the Lancaster Society, like I see it, and it's awesome. But I didn't even know that was a thing when I was at university. Apparently it was, but I didn't hear about it or know about it, and yet I was there building an esports company. So that kind of tells you what level of recognition or investment that society had when I was there. So it's just awesome to see that universities are starting to take it more seriously. And actually, ultimately universities wouldn't be doing that unless they saw real value in it. And clearly they are starting to see real value in it. And I love that. And for me, part of the kind of journey of Excel was, we came through that real grassroots esports scene. I know it extremely well. I've been to many grassroots events and competed, not myself, but Excel competed at many grassroots events, and it's just, I mean, a great journey to get to where we were. But I think what we had to do was really focus on getting into that tier 1 and upper echelons, because you need that kind of brand presence to then go back and almost invest in the grassroots. Because the problem previously was, at the grassroots level, no one could see what the kind of end goal was, and no one could see what like pro esports looked like. Whereas with Excel, we now have an ability to go, well, this is what professional esports is. We try and make sure we support homegrown talent, and often we have a lot of homegrown talent in our professional rosters where we can, and that really shows the pathway. But the problem is, we then need to develop the infrastructure below that to make the pathway a lot clearer for aspiring players. And it's not there yet, but it is really getting there rapidly, which is awesome, and I love to see. I think the universities are a great avenue for that as well, and one of the best. I actually really enjoy when we end up hiring players who have actually done degrees and then gone on to pursue their professional playing career, so they've got that kind of grounding. We get a lot of players that are kind of 18, just out of what we would call sixth form, before they go to university. But we've actually just promoted a player from our academy team who's done a university degree, and now is pursuing a professional League of Legends career. And I love that. I think that's awesome.
Wow. So so not only is he playing like 40, 50 hours a week, also getting a degree and smashing that out, and
law degree as well, which is not the
Is that what you
easiest one.
studied at university as
Yeah,
well?
yeah. So I was supposed to be a lawyer until Excel took over my life. So that was my my kind of corporate route that I was supposed to go down, was law, and did a law degree and did a master's in it as well, and enjoyed it as a subject. Still enjoy it now. Still kind of heavily exposed to the legal industry and like it. But I think I'm much happier doing what I'm doing.
Yeah, I mean, the point being there just goes to show that you take a degree, and you learn, you pick up some professional skills along the way, but realistically, as long as you're not going to be a doctor, like you do need to have that training. You can apply that to anything, including esports, and be a player. Look at the other avenues from like marketing and things like that.
The biggest thing about a degree is actually not the kind of hard skills that you learn when you're doing your degree. It's all of the soft skills. It's like the ability to actually apply yourself over a 3-year period to a project, and to be disciplined about deadlines, and and all of those soft skills that are massively transferable to the workplace in any job you do. I think that's really what a degree gives you, is that work ethic and that ability to kind of get things done in a timely manner. I didn't use any really of my law degree in my day-to-day work. I mean, maybe a bit of contract law here and there, but outside of that, I really don't use a lot of it in my day-to-day work. But I still think it gave me the kind of skill set necessary to go and do what I've done. So
awesome. And then, well, onto that then. Excel, when it started with, you had yourself, you had your brother, and you built this team, but now it's kind of become this brand and content powerhouse, and the team is still important, but actually, in order to sustain you and still pay that team, you also need to develop a brand and create kind of sponsorships there as well. And with that comes different skill sets that are needed within your company. So, kind of who. Two questions. Any advice for people looking to break into the industry? I know that's quite a wide question, but also, what skill sets do you look at for certain roles that maybe can be applied across a few of the roles? I know that there'll be some specific skill sets needed for different ones, but what are you looking at as an employer from students who are looking to break into the space?
yeah, I mean, looking at more obviously the esports side of the business, which is obviously my area, is sometimes seen as like the sexy side of the business because it's the it's the professional teams, it's the coaches, it's the it's the high stakes, it's the competitive aspect, and that's great. But the actual business side of Excel at its core is essentially, again, to try and keep it very, very simple, is grow your audience and monetize your audience. That's basically what we're trying to do. And you need people that can do both of those things, which are not your professional players or your coaches or anyone there. They don't have those skill sets. Now, it's true that being competitively successful is one of the key drivers of our business objectives. So if we are competitively successful, we will grow our audience, and with a bigger audience, it will be easier to monetize our brand, right? That's obvious, but you need people who on a day-to-day basis are helping you grow your audience and also monetizing that audience. So in those two kind of, as I say, basic areas, there's obviously a lot more to it. The bigger the organizations get and the more complicated the business models get, there are avenues that you won't even expect that esports teams need in the future. But right now, if I kept it as those simple basic areas, it's essentially marketing and commercial, right? Marketing, grow your audience; commercial, monetize your audience. And there's a whole manner of different roles, even within just those two basic departments, which is, on the marketing side, it could be kind of what I'd call traditional marketing. It could be social media, could be elements of content creation, whatever it is in there. And then on commercial, you've got kind of B2B commercial, partnerships, brand partnerships, but you've also got B2C, which could be merchandise. It could be, a digital fan destination, whatever it is. There's a lot in there behind the scenes in the business that actually there's a lot of avenues to get into esports. And that's just looking at an esports team, not let alone like an event organizer or different esports style businesses. So there are lots of avenues and there are lots of skill sets that we're looking for in those different areas. And yeah, sometimes often a degree in marketing or, a degree in general business would help in a lot of those areas.
Yeah, it makes total sense. And I think actually it's worth mentioning for the students that are watching as well, is when they are involved in esports societies or gaming societies, those societies are ran similar to some kind of like bedroom organizations and businesses. Yes, you've got a society who's meeting up for socially and forming part of teams, but as part of the exec committee, you've also got treasurers, you've got someone who looks at the broadcast element, you've got people who create the posters and designs for social media to go out and try and advertise some charity events that they're running or things like that. So advice for some of the students that are listening is actually think about your time at a university and your society, and try and apply some of those skill sets that you learned whilst you were engaged with your esports society or gaming society to the role that you're applying for, because quite often I think those are overlooked and people tend to go for the easy, I'm great at teamwork because I was part of a team. But actually there's so much more than it is.
We've hired, to my knowledge, 2 people now who have in their interviews or CVs really spoken heavily about what they've done with their esports society at university, and I think that that is such a great kind of case study for applicants, because not only does it show your passion for esports, which is super important when you're coming to work in esports, because that's what gets you out of bed in the morning, and that's what gets you turning up to all of your 9 a.m. meetings on time because you're excited to be there because you're passionate about the industry. But it actually shows the skills that you've applied, because just playing for your esports society university is not enough, unfortunately, unless we're looking at you as a pro player down the line. It's great to have a passion for esports. That's brilliant, but that's not enough. Like, you need to bring something to say. We need to bring a skill set that is desired. And if you have gone that extra mile to run the social media for your society, that shows that you can speak the gaming language. That already ticks a lot of boxes if we're looking for a marketing role. So yeah, not all the boxes, but it ticks some of the boxes, and it probably gets you in the door and gets you an interview. So that's yeah, for me, that's a big plus, is get involved and actually develop a skill set.
Awesome. So, well, on that skill set thing, then, we obviously Intel FutureGen is a leadership program. So I'd be amiss from if I didn't talk about leadership. I'll kind of put you on the spot a bit here, Kieran. But what qualities do you think make a great leader? So whether that's from being a team captain for your esports team, or actually managing a department and a company, what kind of leadership qualities do you think make a great leader?
It's a really good question, and I've read a lot of leadership management books, and they'll all tell you many different things. And I've now worked with many different leaders myself. Consider myself a leader, obviously, with what I've done. And I think my idea of a leader when I came out of university is very different to what my idea of a leader is now. I think my idea of a leader when I came out of university was that kind of charismatic front man, gets everyone motivated about what they're doing. I think that's still super important. I don't think that goes away. I still think that is a really important part of leadership. But what I've learned is there are many different types of leaders. You don't have to be that person to be a great leader. For me, and again, I'll try and keep it super simple, because I think that's the only real way to be. Being a great leader is about consistency. So for me, it's about very, very simply saying what you're going to do. So being very, very clear about, I am going to do X, and then doing it. And if you consistently set out what you're going to do and do it and deliver it, that's leadership for me. And that might require a bit of delegation in there. That might require a bit of, making sure that everyone is kind of playing to their strengths and playing to their skill set. But very, very simply for me, it's saying what you're going to do and doing it. And then there's a lot of cliches for me around leadership, be the first in the office in the morning and make sure you're the last one out and all that sort of stuff. And I don't think that's necessary, but I do think that leading by example is part of it. And do, as I say, doing the right things consistently is a big part of it, for sure.
Fantastic. So great answer for that one. And we're going to pass over to some questions in Twitch chat that we have. So this is the on the spot moment, Kieran. But we'll see where we go. So we actually at first have a question from Patrick from the Intel FutureGen cohort, who can't make it today, but he's sent me a question in advance. So Patrick wants to know about priorities. So he's asked, how do you think the goals are different for a small esports org in terms of competitive success versus a larger one? So how important is that versus a larger competitive success?
I think in all esports teams, competitive success is key. I think what it really is about is delivering a kind of return on investment without getting too in the detail. It's simply the investment that you'll make, whatever the investment you're making is, however sizable it is, you need to get that value back in marketing value, right? You need to, and it's quite, sometimes it's not a particularly scientific process. It's not we invested X and we got 2X and therefore that's a great tick box. Sometimes it's a little bit more qualitative than quantitative, but it's a case of we invested X. Do we think that we got value from the investment we made in that team? And obviously, the more competitively successful they are, the more value you get back in terms of eyeballs, etc. So yeah, I think it's all about the value you gain from the size of the investment you make. And at the tier 1 level, the investment is obviously a lot more sizable, but you also hope that the value you return is a lot more sizable. So
makes sense. And then we'll go to the Twitch chat questions now. So this one is from a user who just has 8 numbers in their name, so I'm not going to read all those numbers out. But they say, "Hi Kieran, just wondering how you feel about the female scene and how long do you think it's going to take for orgs to start getting mixed rosters?"
awesome question. Really good question. I don't think there's really like I'm not necessarily going to have massive nuggets of wisdom in this area, but what I will say is I think everyone agrees on what the goal is, and the goal is exactly what is said in the question, is to have those mixed rosters at the pro level, because there's no reason that we can't have those. I don't think everyone agrees on how to get there and what the journey is to get to that mixed roster level, because ultimately we hire our professional players purely on merit, and we have a pool of people that we look at, and they are predominantly 99% male at the moment, and that is not how we want it to be. And therefore, what do we do to get to the point where the pool of people that we're looking at and the level of people that we're looking at has a 50-50 split, right? Which would be the ideal goal. And I think there's lots of ways to do that. I think I really like what Valorant are doing. So we've just entered Valorant as a new esport, and what Riot Games have done, if they're running a Valorant Game Changers tournament alongside their Valorant Champions Tour, and the Game Changers is to promote diversity and has a lot of female competitors. And I think that is the way forward. Is we need to basically create heroes, or female professional esports heroes, so that it inspires the next generation to go that next step further. I think that really is probably the route. So I would really like us to get involved in that Game Changers. I'd really like us to get involved in a few more initiatives like that. So yeah, watch this space on that one.
Awesome. And that was actually apparently from Julia. Julia, hi. Julia's part of our cohort from last year and part of Roehampton's scholarship program. So the first woman to be part of that program.
I've met Julia, actually. Hello, Julia.
And then we've got one from Alpha Kenny. He asks, if Excel could get the best player or team in the world for any one game they don't currently have, what would it be? So I think he's asking if you could pick up any player you want or any team you want for any game, who is that?
Great question. I would take a Call of Duty team, because Call of Duty remains at my heart and is actually the first game XL went pro in. And I would take the kind of classic Optic Gaming roster of like Scumpy. Let's bring Nadeshot out of 100 Thieves and back out of retirement. Let's get him in there. And let's get I don't know, Crimsix and Formal back on the team or something like that. I'd have do
you think you'd play for that team, Kieran? Do you want to be on the roster?
I think I should be on the roster as well. That would be that would only be fair. That would only be fair.
And then we've got a question from X13 Stephen. They ask, as a social media manager myself, I've looked for opportunities in esports, but I'm past the age of college and university at the moment. Do you think that it is needed to have those qualifications to pursue a job in esports?
Definitely not. Absolutely not. The no degree is necessary. Certainly not an esports specific degree or anything like that. It's more about your skill set. And also it depends on the level that you're looking to go in at. Like if we're hiring a sort of management level in the marketing team, probably would expect some marketing qualifications and some experience there. But if it's an entry level position, there's no requirement, for qualifications or anything like that. You need to have a passion and show an aptitude to learn quickly, basically.
Cool, good advice. And then we have a final question from Turtle Gravy. They ask,
great name.
Hi Kieran, thanks for Q&A. What do you reckon universities can do to better tie in traditional sport club structures with the esports scene?
Well, they can do just that. They can tie in what they do on traditional sports side with esports a bit more. I'm seeing it more and more in universities. I'm seeing more and more structure being brought to the esports side of things. But they still. I imagine a lot of universities, the esports teams aren't getting travel budget, right? And travel budget is, well, when we open up for in a post-COVID world, a travel budget is going to be absolutely necessary for those teams to get to events and experience competing. Not even just in the UK, hopefully, globally, getting out to events and competing, because that's the only way you're going to grow as a team, right? Is actually testing yourself against better people than just the people inside your university or the people on the ranked playlist. You need to get out to tournaments and play against some good teams. So yeah, I think invest more and adopt those traditional sports models where they provide travel for the team. Everyone get on a coach and get down to Insomnia Gaming Festival to compete, right? Like things like that. I think we've got to see more of that.
Well, yeah, hashtag ad for Insomnia Gaming Festival.
Yeah, hashtag ad. Yeah, sorry. Yeah.
That's okay. No, I think I'd add to that as well and say I don't know which country you're from, Total Gravy, but if you're in the UK, obviously NSE is partnered with Bucks, British University College Sport, who are a kind of traditional sports governing body for universities. So they run all traditional sport. And we kind of mirror their structure. So in terms of the university points table, we run the British University Esports Championship, which has a winter and a spring split. You can take part in any one of our British University Esports Championship games, League of Legends, Dota, Valorant, etc. We're out there and we're trying to champion esports with those universities and unlocking more funding from your universities for those teams and societies and getting rid of the stigma of esports and gaming that does still exist. But if you do have that direct contact with the universities themselves, show them the nse.gg website, show them the university points table and where you're currently ranked and how many players are taking part there, and really kind of hammer home that actually, if they were talking about football and they had 40 football teams at university, they wouldn't even be questioning about building a football pitch. So some of these universities, Warwick, 80 esports teams there, and they're now finally building those facilities. So use the data available on nse.gg to really champion esports, and reach out to us as well, and we can see what we can do to put that in front of your university.
Super clever creating the league tables, because if there's one thing that'll get a university moving, it's seeing that their rival university is above them in the standings somewhere, right? So that's very good to see.
Yeah, I don't know where. I think Luges are fourth. I don't know where York are actually. We'll have to look.
Come on, Luges. Make sure York are right down there. Come on, Luges.
Okay, thanks, Kieran, for joining us. We're going to wrap up now. We're going to hop over to the private Q&A with the Intel FutureGen cohort. But thanks for your time today, Kieran, and thanks everyone for watching. And this will be available as a VOD on our Twitch channel, but also on our YouTube channel as well.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Cheers for having me.
Cheers, guys.